Sunday night at 8, which means it is time for the WNY report with your co-hosts, Paula Collins and Nikki Lawley. So welcome back, everybody. So Nikki had some amazing photos this week.
I kind of did, sister. Um, Tommy Chong, I got to meet and hang and chat with him a bit. This week was Grow Up in Toronto. So I was up there for Memorial Day and the day after. And oh, what a conference it was. This is the conference that I was nominated as Influencer of the Year. And I learned confidentially that I was second, but like
Well,
not
they
everybody
say
got that
whoever's in
feedback.
second place actually works harder.
Well, whatever. But the point is, Urban Remo Extracts, he's a grower and does nutrients, and he's like a boss. He's amazing. He's a rock star. So I just loved hanging with my moose mates in Canada, and it was just an honor to be nominated, quite honestly. Being international, yes, very moosey. But yeah, it was awesome. It was a great time. Got to see lots of cool peeps. And then I came home and had to spin right around and head to Albany. And went to Albany and then on to the On the Revel, the Revelry Buyers Club. What a
Wow, you've really
sick.
made the circuit.
I made the circuit this
What are
week,
you doing
girl.
in Albany?
So I had to go to Albany because that's where my lab is for certified
Your
testing and data,
laboratory.
my laboratory.
Yes.
But it was really more to pick up Aaron, the
So
my
tell
boss.
us about your lab. What is the name of your lab?
It's not my lab, people. It's certified testing and data. It is my employee now, or employer now. I'm the
Yeah.
employee, the employer.
And they are
CTND is
poised to
also.
really do well in this industry, right?
Yeah, they really, really are. They have the biggest lab I've seen in New York State of any of the cannabis labs. They're prepared to, you know, slug it out and get in
Mhm.
there and get the business and do whatever it takes to make people feel comfortable. The lab has the latest and greatest, testing equipment, and they're successful already in Florida. Aaron, my boss, actually owned CannaSafe, which was a Californian lab, sold it, opened up Florida, opened up New York, and yeah, we went to this buyers club, and it was like every one of the customers I could ever want was there.
So, um, do you remember a time in New York cannabis when this is post MRTA, when the real concern was that the bottleneck would be at testing, that we would have so much product coming from the cultivators and manufacturers, and so many retailers having placed orders which could not have product on the shelves until we had the testing done, right? You got to have those reports.
All about
And
the COA, baby.
we were worried that the state had not licensed enough labs. And that was like, oh, we're going to have this breakdown in the supply chain because of the labs.
The labs are not the problem. Let me just make that crystal clear. We have 16 labs in New York State right now, nine of which do full panel testing, which is compliance for any product that goes on New York State shelves has to be fully compliant tested, which means everything from potency to terpenes to heavy metals to microbials, you name
Mhm.
it. If there's bad shit in it, we got to know. And it's so important, right? And our COA is pretty much the best looking one in the New York market, I gotta say.
Well, and I have to say that you've made me so much more aware of the importance of testing for the medical patients. It's vital.
Huge. It's vital. It's absolutely vital. And even for regular people, right? Do you really want to be sucking down some lead or sucking
Do
on
we
some?
really have regular people in New York? We We'll get
Yes,
back.
you do.
Stick a pin in that. We'll come back to that one.
Yeah. Well, it was just, it's so deep, the level of testing that goes on in New York State. Like, it's not just, okay, here's your potency and off you go. It's really a complex, intense system. I mean, there's like this, they call it laboratory information system software or something, LIMS, they call it. And it's literally so tied to the state, and it's like the most sort of archaic, ancient sort of system. I think it would be similar to your Business Express experience. Um, it
That's
sounds
just
like it.
awful. That is
I
a
know, right?
horrible hell.
But like, I mean, I looked at this thing and I look at all the stuff they have to put in it, and I'm just like, shit. And
Yeah.
you need so much product to actually test. I was really
Mhm.
surprised at that. Like, you don't just need a gram to test through all the processes. Hell no. I mean, you've got like lots of chemicals they're testing for, pesticides, and
Well, I mean, it's something that we account for in the tax return,
oh,
like how much product you lose just because of testing.
just because of testing. I mean, it's a lot, and you have to have it for every batch. And there's certain limits as to how big the batch can be, and per product. And testing concentrates is more expensive than testing straight flour. A lot of labs kind of do some weird stuff, and like they test a pre roll with the wrapper on it. Like, kind of a bad idea because so many papers contain heavy metals.
Mhm.
So now you're,
That just horrifies me that they would even do that. Um,
yeah, no, it's a real thing. Real
so
thing.
I want to talk about on the Revel, but I kind of want to go through the supply chain, and we're on
Well,
testing,
that's
which kind of,
where it all happened for me. That's where all the lights kind of go off, is the on the Revel event, because you literally have the cultivators, the processors, the retailers, the labs, the distribution. So you have like, what is it, 6 levels of the supply chain? Like, they're all there, right? And the brands. So just in case you weren't confused enough in New York State, let's just say, okay, so you have, I'm just going to pull a processor out of my butt. Like, you have, say, HPI Canna, and one of the product lines they represent, I can't even think of any right off the top of my head. I feel really stupid right now. But whatever that product line they represent is like one of several that are manufactured by that processor. So it's really important you kind of understand where it all comes, originates, where the pricing's coming from, where the taxes are coming from, because it's incredibly confusing. Let's use Urban Extracts. They just got WNY gummies. Okay, so Urban Extracts gets product from a wholesaler, i.e., they buy distillate from a cultivator. So hypothetically, I don't know where they buy their distillate, but let's just hypothetically say they buy distillate from a house of sake. Actually, that'd be a bad example because they're just strictly. So they buy distillate from No Wave, right? And when they buy that distillate from No Wave, or they buy it from another farmer, they then have to make it to the specifications of WANA, but you have to test through the whole process, right? Because not every distillate is the same. And it's really an isolated compound that you have to like add shit back in. So you have to add those terpenes back in. You have to add that any extra cannabinoids or things like that back in. So these costs rise. You might think, oh, well, you're just making a 30 pack of gummies. Why does it cost so much to make? Well, because they have to test the shit all the way through, and including all their regular materials. So there's a lot to it, and then they have to get their product on the shelves. So the retailers that were walking around on the Reveille Buyers Club literally got in for free because all the cultivators and manufacturers were the vendors. They were the ones vending because they
mhm,
want their products in the stores of the retailers, which
mhm.
is right there. And then you have the lab, like it was literally Letosaurus Rex for me because like pretty much everybody that had a booth is my customer, or potential
Yeah.
customer. So there's that. And then, retailers really aren't my customer at all, but they care about tested product. They care about, where it comes from. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, it's not my job to tell the story of how to buy the product. My job is to make sure it's the safest product. And
Mhm.
every adult use product has to have a QR code linked to a certificate of analysis from a lab. So if you ever get a product from a New York State licensed dispensary and it doesn't go to a QR code, that's like a problem. Like
So
if
could you make that stuff up?
oh,
I'm just
absolutely.
asking for, the unlicensed people who might be, because there are people who will swear to me that this stuff can be fabricated. And I'm like, I don't think that can happen. They're like, oh no, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening in Cali. It's happening here. It's happening in Michigan. We
There
don't have
are
legislations.
knockoffs of brands, right, that aren't really tested in a New York
No, I'm
lab.
talking knockoffs of testing reports, knockoffs of
Correct.
COAs.
Correct. Correct. And we've already seen how some of the illicit stores have popped up like fake were illegal dispensary stickers. So why wouldn't they create this is a legal COA from New York, And then if you don't
And
know what you're looking for,
a lot of them, honestly, right after, um, boy, we've had so many different chapters, but right after the logo with the THC and the New York State and all of that, right after that was released and put online, some people were putting it on their products, and I said, "You don't do that." And they said, "Why? We have tested in-house, and we got this from a trusted source from Cali." And I'm like, "Well, first of all, what you're doing is committing fraud." And so
fraud,
on top of,
capital F,
transporting things across state lines, let's just not add to it by adding a fraud charge.
probably not a good idea. Not
Not a
wise.
good idea.
Not wise.
Yeah, some people can have 34 guilty verdicts and just keep right on going,
Keep
but
right on going.
most people know. Most people, it kind of at least causes them to tap the brake a little bit.
Yeah, we would hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're totally right. So like let's just take a great brand like Rove. Rove is a multi-state operator. Their brand, they create arrangements with processors and growers to get their products in the market. It's a licensing agreement. And so I'll never forget, like I experienced Rove in California and it was just so amazing. And then friends were trying to sell me Rove carts, and I was buying them for the same price I was in Cali, like even a little more. And then one day I looked at the Cali Rove and I looked at the local Rove, and it was absolutely fake. The font was different. The label wasn't even on right, and like it was such a scam, and I was so pissed at who I bought it from because I'm like, this isn't even a real thing. Like, and it didn't taste the same either. And like this is stuff people don't know. But you had to really have both of cartridges packaging right next to it to really understand that. Like I'm kind of savvy on this packaging stuff. So for
Yeah, you
me
are.
to have been
You read labels.
hoodwinked,
In this
you
industry,
know,
you read labels more than anybody I know. Well, let's talk about AI. Will AI have an impact on this?
100%. 100%. I can I just say, now being a salesperson, I'm very wordy, right? And so
I've never
my
noticed that, ever.
my um admin person that handles the lab, she's like, we need to teach you how to use AI. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, all this information, highlight it and put it in this box. And I put it in the box. And I mean, my paragraph from this long went to like this long. And I was like, but is all the information there? And it really was. But like,
No, I was talking about AI that would generate a more realistic COA, fake
mm,
COA.
a realistic fake COA. Um, in
Well, you
theory,
mentioned a lot
yeah,
of words. There are a lot of words in that.
there were. And yeah, I mean, this AI shit can literally replicate so much, right? I mean, I get that it's a tool, but it can really screw shit up too, like make posers, like truly accent the poser.
Mhm.
And that's not cool, like I'm wicked authentic, as everyone knows. And the thought of just like being hoodwinked with that cartridge thing, it wasn't potentially safe, that knockoff cartridge, right? But I wouldn't know that because I just would have believed because the same package, right?
Well, you mentioned cartridge just before I logged in. Our good friend Ruben
Oh
has
yeah, Ruben's got some new shit coming out. Boom slay, Ruben, go.
Boom Slay is right. Blackmar Farms.
Blackmar Farms coming to the house, coming
His
out hard.
The entry product will be a disposable, rechargeable device, followed up by gummies and pre-rolls and jar flour. I'm very excited about this. Ruben has worked long and hard to make this happen.
Very long and hard. And Ruben is a really smart dude. Can I just say that without any pushback? I mean, he just knows so much and knows so many people. And I feel so naive around him. I feel like I know nothing. Um, and
Ruben's a good guy.
he's just a good human, like from his heart, And kudos to all those, what is it, the November queue people. Like, I'm hearing lots of people are getting their approvals for opening their retail shops, um, including some of our good friends.
Okay, good.
And until we announce it officially, I probably shouldn't mention their name, but um, it's kind of exciting because I'm really, really happy for them because they deserve it, right?
It's been a long haul.
Long haul, been a long haul, paying lots of rent, paying lots of costs, and not really getting a great return.
Yeah,
So now's the time for them to shine, the way I see it.
agreed. So where are we where are we with regard to the December queue? I heard a rumor that the December queue was just going to kind of vanish. Have you heard?
Really?
Yeah.
I have not heard that, but then again, this really isn't my wheelhouse other than hearing
Well,
from
and
other
the person
people.
who mentioned it was just saying, what's going to happen here, and then um, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how we're going to issue licenses unless we put an interim in there, in the place of Chris Alexander. To me, it would make sense to put in Jeanette Moy as interim, but I don't know. I'm not, that's a little bit above my pay grade. As you know, most of my work is with a few licenses, actually several license applications at this point. Um, and then the processing of the unlicensed
Hmm.
and how that's coming down. And, uh, I it's coming down fast and furious. I gotta say the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, once you're in a hearing, the hearings go well, but it's tough to get a hearing. And then I even got one that was just an OCM hearing, which surprised me.
Hmm.
No other kind of hearing, just an OCM hearing. So I
So,
didn't
hey,
know those still existed, honestly.
while we're here, do tell us about your little Collins for Congress campaign. I'm seeing that
Collins,
Stefanik chick every now and then in the news, and I'm like, yeah, well, my girl's better than you, so. Anyway.
Well, thanks for saying that. It's it's an interesting time to be in politics. Um, First of all, the Farm Bill is something that Congress will need to talk about, and it definitely, so that's an intersection, right, of the two industries that I'm in. But as far as the campaign trail, we had a very successful dairy festival in St. Lawrence County.
Dairy festival, you go, girl.
Dairy festival, and there is a
Oh.
dairy princess. And when they first asked me to be in the parade, I thought they were asking me to be the dairy princess, but I'm lactose intolerant. And now the dairy princess is usually a high school senior girl. Um, and she's all decked out in almost like a prom dress with the crown and everything. It's a big thing. And again, you and I are in what is an agricultural industry, and one of what will be one of New York's finest industries. Dairy is yet another of New York's finest industries. And so, for example, there's a huge craft cheese processing plant within my district. My district also is the home of where every bit of Philadelphia cream cheese is made. It's not made in Philadelphia,
Interesting.
it's made here. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then for a while, the cheddar cheese that's like Cracker Barrel cheese, it was made here. And then they said, oh no, we're going to ship all of this processing to Wisconsin. And then that only lasted a few months because there's something about the soil and the minerals in the water that it didn't taste the same. So they shipped it all back.
Oh my God, what an expense.
Yeah.
Somebody really thought that one out.
Yeah. And then of course just all of the other kinds of cheeses that are made, and then yogurt, sour cream, and dairy. So this St. Lawrence Dairy festival was like a 3-day festival to
Oh wow.
celebrate the one of the state's biggest industries, and definitely St. Lawrence County is a big part of that. So that was on Saturday. On Sunday, which is today, I went to the Lewis County Pride Parade. Now, a lot of my New York experience prior to this campaign was in New York City, where Pride is a big corporate event. And now there are actually multiple Pride parades because the original people got tired of the big corporate event, so they went back to their sort of retro parade, which was more like um, a protest, is what they call it, because it was protesting the way that the police had treated people at Stonewall, when they went in and beat up all the gays and arrested them. So that was the origin of Pride. And so now that Pride has become, rainbows and glitter and unicorns and drag queens, a lot of people in New York City have pulled back on that. Well, Pride in rural counties is vastly different because,
Vastly.
of course, there are many counties where people are still afraid. And in fact, um, today's event was at the Lewis County Fairgrounds, and they were, we were expecting like 35 people. Well, there were like 115 people who showed up, which was very cool. There was also concern that there would be like church groups or other people who would come out and do sort of a counter protest or a protest against us, and they didn't. And
Bonus.
so that was good. And it's just really interesting. It's a little bit like the cannabis story where, and people in cannabis will talk about being out in cannabis, kind of like being out as being a gay person, or frankly, I'm running as a Democrat. There are people that are like, after the Pride event, I had to drive to Remsen, New York, and deliver. I have these packets where well, we've got all these postcards that are going out to voters. And so I'll get work groups and we'll put 120 of these plus mailing lists like this into packets. And people can either provide postage as a donation or I can provide the postage. So I was delivering 18 of these packets of 120 cards to this person in Remsen. And she was there at this arts festival and she had a friend with her. And every time we said the word Democrat, she whispered, Democrat,
Oh my
because she said, I'm actually afraid to let my neighbors know that I'm a Democrat. Democrat. She's really afraid of it. And, as we were talking there, and I had my, because I was coming from Pride, so I had my shirt and I, I had my cards, and of course my car has my signs, and she kept saying,
Oh my God, that had to be
so
hard.
if we can get, some really good legislation so that people like this woman or other people in cannabis or other people just, in the world, people with disabilities, people of a different race or ethnicity can feel like we're all okay. We're all okay. And we were heading in that direction, especially with cannabis. Like, let's talk about our brothers and sisters in hemp. Like, what the hell are they supposed to do? They can't even figure out what's legal and not. I
Right.
have to really work hard to figure out what's legal and not.
Facts. Facts. I mean, THCA, is now a big frown upon if it's coming from hemp. And again, it's just there's all these little nuances that if you're not in the industry, you really have no clue, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm learning every day. I still don't have a good grip on the hemp bill, like
Well, that
um
whole thing about non-intoxicating or intoxicating hemp, it's and how do you really, because it's not like we're testing the human to
no,
determine if they're
it's
intoxicated.
intoxicating, correct.
Like, isn't that somewhat subjective? Like, for example, you consume THC at a much higher level than a lot of other people, but it's because you need it to do something in your brain that helps you to function. But that level of THC would be perhaps intoxicating to another human.
100%. And you have no idea how that's going to affect the other human either. Literally, all of us have our own unique endocannabinoid system. So, what works for me might not work for you, might make you feel wicked high, but I feel nothing. So,
What
how,
did you think of Jeffrey Hoffman's bill that he's written
well, I think
about?
it's cool that he's fighting so hard for sure, 100%. I mean, he's very much trying to fight for the medical program and for medical patients and getting coverage for insurance and everything. I just feel like it's total uphill battle trying to get insurance coverage for it right now. I just think no one's really going to cover it. And even if,
Well, I wasn't even thinking of that. I was thinking of his
oh,
bill to require that a certain number of continuing education credits by
oh, that
physicians
part.
would be on the endocannabinoid system.
Love it. Love it. I mean, you know me, I'm all about education and testing. So there you go.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that'd be great. That'd be amazing. But again, who's going to mandate it? Who's going to enforce it? Look at what we're dealing with just licensing. We haven't even we don't even have a standard bud tender program or requirement,
Mhm.
right? Like, so now we're going to tell doctors they have to learn about it. Good
Mhm.
luck.
Good luck. That's right. Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I support it. Do not misunderstand. I'm 100% in Jeffrey's corner because, he's doing the right thing. I just don't know if it's going to go anywhere. I mean, this has been talked about, like California doctors don't even know about it, half of them, like you just, you can lead the horses to water, but you can't always make them drink, if you know what I'm saying, Paula.
Yeah, totally.
Totally.
I'm surrounded by a lot of horses. Like when I go for a walk, tons and tons of horses around here, and then horses pulling carriages and plows, and then horses just like standing in the pasture eating grass.
Snacking on some hay, having a little hay.
Yep. So
So now the Reverly Club, like I'd never been to anything like that. It was
it's
jam
crowded, right?
packed. Like
Yeah,
you
they
could
really
not
need a bigger
move.
space, but I think they kind of like that. I think they like that excitement.
I like the excitement, but it would have just been ideal to be able to talk to people easier. You know,
Yeah.
when you're outside, it was great, but everybody was inside that you really wanted to talk to. So you were kind of screwed. Like you had to go in full bore. But it was an amazing event, and I was super grateful I was able to go. Can Delta gave me one of their exhibitor passes, so I was able to attend, which was amazing.
So, do you drive to these events?
Yeah,
Wow.
like I'm putting the miles on the little moose mobile. Let me just tell you that flat out. Um, and in case you don't know, I have an obsession with moose, the animal. I don't eat it. I love moose. I find them very majestic and beautiful creatures.
Well, I keep seeing signs, moose, like they'll have the highway sign.
Really? You've got them up there where you are?
Yeah, especially I drove the other day to Franklin County. Franklin County has a bunch of moose signs on their roads, and I'm like, I kept hoping one would cross so I could
No,
take.
you don't. No. Mm-mm.
Well, I wanted to take a photo for you.
For me, well, that would have been great. But if they're crossing the road and you're driving in the road, it's a real bad mix
Yeah.
because they will win.
Who's here? Honey
Hello, Moose
Smith.
Mobile. Honey Smith
Honey's,
Walls.
yeah,
She's a
Squeeze
boss.
Moose Mobile.
Squeeze. Yeah, Moose Mobile. She likes it. Honey is an amazing podcaster. She really targets those senior peeps, and she's just such a beautiful, homey soul. She's just like, she's a baller. She's awesome. And
Cool.
she's up in Michigan. She had like a turkey thing going on. She had a turkey and had to get baby turkeys or something for the big turkey. It was a whole thing. You got to follow her on LinkedIn. It's rather interesting.
Well, I will. We've got emus down the street from me.
Emus, well, this was like turkeys.
Well, I don't know. We're kind of, just chit-chatting here. I'm glad you're in the chat because usually we have other things, we have some people kind of like saying, "Well, what about this?" Whereas it's kind of nice just to talk
No,
about where
someone's.
we are
Mhm.
with, like before the show we were talking about I want to hit on each, and I think we have pretty much. We talked about now. The other thing, what about the cultivators whose licenses are going to expire at the end of this month? I am wondering if maybe the state is going to extend.
I think they are. I just don't see how they can't.
And a lot of cultivators have gotten their licenses, but then a lot haven't. And they've been in it since day one. Day one.
Yep.
Like they were hemp farmers.
And peace.
They
Yep.
did the right thing. They converted to AUCCs. No,
Yes.
conditional.
Conditional cultivators.
Conditional
Yeah,
cultivators.
you're right.
And now what they're waiting on is their AUCC, their adult use cultivator license. That's not AUCC.
No. But
So,
whatever it is, it's like the permanent version of that.
I mean, we've been waiting for months with one of my clients. Months, months. And we did all the right things. We put all the right paperwork in and they responded and they cured their deficiencies on TPI and um, it's just so disheartening. I hope that a year from now, this is all just kind of a bitter memory, this
Yeah.
whole era, and that everybody who has put in an application will have either heard yes or have heard no. And honestly, that hearing no is also very, very important because you need to either find a way to reconfigure your business plan and reapply in whatever next round opens, or just, go be a Walmart greeter.
Right. Facts.
We still have Walmart greeters. I'm not sure they do. They
I don't
don't
know. I don't
even
go to
really
Walmart.
have Walmart checkers anymore. I don't know if you've been in Walmart lately.
I haven't, but
They
you're
don't.
right.
They have like you scan it, and it's like, but I don't work here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm having to pay for my products, and you want me to scan, and you want me to bag my own stuff with my own bags. Anyway, Honey says, it's heartbreaking to watch the cultivators do legal backward somersaults only to get screwed every time. Amen, sister. Sing it.
Boom slay.
Boom, slay. Because you know what? If we don't have the cultivators, we don't have.
products. Hello.
And so to me, they should be exalted. They should be the first people to get anything in this industry.
Yeah, a little security be nice. A little security.
Hmm.
And then, like, okay, so the micros. Let's talk about micro businesses for
Ooh,
just a tiny second.
I'm not a fan.
You're not?
No.
May I ask why?
Do I have to whisper?
You don't. You can share it in
This
full
is a safe
volume.
place. Well, a lot of times what's happening is that uh, the inquiry will come in from a client. Gee, I've been growing these plants and now I want to be able to manufacture and
So,
sell. So they're envisioning this little universe that they have created, seed to sale. Um, and then they start talking, and I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then I realized they're talking about, something the size of Glass House. And I'm talking like a little tiny, what is it? The canopy is very limited, and I should know that number. I've said it enough times. The canopy is very, very small. And so you're really only looking at a very boutique kind of business.
and
And
you're only allowed to sell your products,
you're
correct?
only allowed to sell your products. And so,
Like you can't have a partnership with like a big company. Let's just use Rove because like I've already talked about them 4 times. But like Rove can't partner with you and put their products in your micro,
no,
correct?
they can't. And so to me, it's it's a little bit cruel. I think it's more than 20
I
plants.
want to say it's like 5,000 square feet or 25. There's like 3 levels, right?
We have tools. We
We
have
do
the
have tools. I just was too lazy to look at the tools. But you're right. We should know. It's definitely more than 20 plants, honey,
I mean, I
but
just
I don't.
quoted it like Thursday to somebody. New York, New York. Oh, see, it's even pre-populated. Okay, the maximum canopy, maximum, that's the most, is 3,500 square feet.
Ooh, I was off.
Okay, so that doesn't tell you how many plants, it just tells you. Now, if you think about 3,500 square feet of mature or flowering plants, and don't they say you need to allow like 6 feet
Yeah,
for a
you
mature
do.
plant?
Per
I mean,
plant.
yeah.
If you're going to grow of any size, yeah.
Um,
Unless you're doing auto flowers, which can turn things faster, but it's just usually not the quality. But although I've been proven wrong by House Sasaki, he does auto flowers.
so I don't see how anybody can have a micro, because for you to grow, you have to invest in equipment. Let's go back to, you have to lighting, um, watering systems, uh,
Nutrient systems.
nutrient systems,
You have either
antifungal systems.
hydro
Soon
or
you're going to have the seed to sale, the BioTrack. And then once you've grown it, you're then going to a business like yours to get it tested,
Hmm.
even if you're
That's why I
then,
want all the micros. So sorry, Paula. I'm kind of excited about the micros right now.
oh, sorry, I was a little insensitive about that. Um, Too expensive to do it all.
It
I
is.
Yeah. Oh,
When
and
you're a tiny micro,
Honey points out accurately, in suburban America, not in New York City, 3,500 square feet is about the size of some suburban homes. Um, Actually, when I was a homeowner in Houston, Texas, I think my home was 1,900 square feet, and it felt a little bit small, but yeah, 3,500 square feet. So if you're building a business off of that you're planning, and keep in mind, you can't just like have this hobby of growing
right?
marijuana and supporting a micro business, because I feel like then you're going to be very disappointed because you've got to sleep. And if something goes wrong with your plants in the middle of the night, you've got to tend to them. You've got to make sure that all of those watering systems and lighting systems are going 24/7, cycling on and cycling off, and that the drainage is just right. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I think
It's so much work to grow. Like, you can't pay me enough to grow this year. Hell no. Not even
that's
as
not
big
even
as
as big as Trump's outhouse. I don't even wanna think about Trump's outhouse. I don't That's a horrifying thought, but I get your point. Um, yeah, I hear he's gonna be moving to downtown Manhattan.
Why?
Well, I'm not sure he's gonna have a choice.
Well, like where? Trump Tower?
No, jail.
Oh,
Metropolitan
oh, I see
Detention
what you're saying.
Center.
That flew right over the blonde. It just flew like a
No,
bird.
well, I think for anybody that has seen it, when you see Metropolitan Detention Center, you're just like, never want to go there.
Yeah,
Um,
well, he won't be there. He'll be in some cushy pretend prison.
yeah.
Oh, jail. Exactly. I wasn't following either. Um, but yeah, I mean, you watch the news today on the Sunday shows, and oh my God, people are like saying that the judge was crooked because he donated $15 to Biden's campaign in 2016 or wherever the flick it was, or 20. It wasn't even during his campaign. Like $15, people, really?
Well, my Republican opponent,
Yeah.
Elise Stefanik, is
What
now
has she
using
done?
her House.gov account, which, by the way, you pay for and I pay for with our tax dollars. Honey pays for it. All of our tax dollars support the creation of House.gov websites so that all of our United States representatives can correspond
Communicate.
with their constituents. And my Republican opponent has now taken to posting fake news on her House.gov site, saying, like Judge Merchan was not randomly selected, that it was a conspiracy that got him selected. And linking, like one of the publications she linked to is it was created in the 1980s by the Moonies, by the same guy who established the Moonies. Um, it's
Wow.
laughable, but you know what? This is really serious because um, it it shows how this misinformation and disinformation can creep into our government systems,
Hmm.
and voila. Now let's go back to our topic, which is cannabis. And we've all seen how misinformation and disinformation can create this whole furor. Let's take testing. There are so many different opinions about testing. And
So many. And every state has different rules, and
every
every
state has different rules and different procedures and different costs. And like I say, when I talk to people who are trying to vet certain nefarious activities and say, no, 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 it's always done in California. It's like, it's not.
no. No, not so much.
It's not.
Mm.
Um,
But like, I'm thinking of the micros. Okay, so they've got 3,500 square feet to work with. A lot of the micros are planning on doing lots of small batches. Well, let me just throw something out there. A small batch has to be tested just like a big batch.
it
So,
has, and how much of that product, like if you're harvesting, let's say from 12 plants, isn't the yield from at least one of those plants going to have to be sent to the testing lab and not sold to the
yeah,
consumer?
yeah,
Yeah. And you don't
yeah.
get that back.
You don't get it back. And even if we don't use it all, but like for quality control, you have to have other samples that you've tested so that you know what you're testing against, right? And like, I didn't understand this at all. I'm like, what do you mean you need a half an ounce for fucking testing for flour? I'm like, how can anyone afford that? And
And
then I understood.
if it's 3,500 square feet, that's a big chunk of their yield.
Huge chunk.
Yeah.
Huge.
So I didn't mean to
So
diss your whole plan there, but I gotta say it I'm likening it to a small craft vineyard that produces very expensive bottles of wine. I
very
think that's
expensive.
the only way that the micro business is going to work is if you can position yourself and market your product to be, um, really very, very good product.
Right. Right. And again, what's good to you might not be good to me, right? So
Yeah.
it's a very subjective situation. Um, just saying.
Just saying.
And I don't see this going away anytime soon. Like, I mean, the volume you need and then we've got labs totally cheating. Okay. I didn't realize this, but apparently wet cannabis tests higher in THC percentage than dry cannabis. So if you give me a sample that like isn't cured at all and it's just literally sticky nuts from the plant and we do a water test on it, then you've got to like take the water out and it's a whole thing, right? And so your percent is adjusted that way. But I don't think all labs do it. Like they might get some wet product from somebody and say it's 28%, but at the end of the day, it's 16 once it gets dried or
Mhm.
once that calculation of moisture rating gets taken out, right? So, I mean, it doesn't pay to try and cheat with wet weed, people. Just saying.
Honey says, yeah, always buy dry weight. And then she also says they got to come up with better testing tech. I agree. But then, if don't they freeze the wet product? I don't think so. Because then
No,
even when it's maybe freeze dry, but when if they froze it, then even when it defrosted, it would be soggy.
Ruben texted. What'd he say? Oh, his meeting just got over. It's okay, Ruben. We love you. Anyway, we talked about you already. You're our friend.
Yeah, we gave a
Uh,
big shout out to Blackmar Farms.
big shout, huge,
Huge.
grande.
Shout it from the mountaintops. Go tell
Yeah,
it
but
on the mountain.
yeah, she did.
Crystals. Question,
Crystals.
question, question. She's
Crystals. What do you
talking
mean?
about freezing the wet product or else creating crystals.
I
Isn't that
don't
what you're
know.
talking about, honey? Hopefully she's typing. We need one of those things that says she is typing or the dot, dot.
One of the dot dot dots. Yeah.
Yeah, dot, dot,
Um,
dot.
but yeah, it's really complex, and the amount of different like I mean, lab testing. I literally feel like I work.
Powdered crystals, right. Oh, you froze. Oh my goodness. No,
I
you
don't know
didn't.
which. No, I didn't. I was just kind of
Are you talking
trying to
about
figure out
diamonds?
powdered crystals. Huh?
Diamonds.
Yeah, diamonds aren't powder. Keef's powder. Liquid diamonds are like diamonds. Like, yeah. Oh well, whatever. Sorry, honey. But at this point, I'm not knowledgeable about the freezing of wet product or any kind of crystals. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, every kind of product we have to test. So whether it's a
She says
oh,
no. That's interesting. So we're coming down to like what, 9 minutes. What do you want to see happen this week in New York cannabis?
hey, wait, stop everything. Are you going to CWBE?
I am not,
Damn it.
because I have a two different events that I have to schmooze at, like, and they're pretty serious
Pretty
schmooze.
far away.
They're in Saratoga Springs,
Yeah.
or like,
Well, I'm gonna have to learn how to take the train to New York City from Albany, and I'm like scared. I'm not
oh,
gonna.
that's easy. That's a very easy, and it's actually, if you sit on the, ask somebody which side of the train to follow the river, and it's a beautiful, beautiful train ride.
Oh, well, look at that. Look at that.
Really, really pretty. And it brings you right directly into into Penn Station, and then and then it's a very quick Uber ride to the Javits.
I'm staying at some Moohoo thing or something. It's a weird hotel name. Like, it's wherever the after party is where I'm staying. So I'm
Oh,
staying there Tuesday and Wednesday. But the thing really is more Wednesday, Thursday, but the after party for welcoming party is with normal, and that's on um, Tuesday night. So planning on going to that. I'm super bummed you're not going to be there. That really sucks.
and then the next other big thing is New York Cannabis Insider in Syracuse on the 13th.
Yeah, you going to go to that?
I'm trying to make that happen. I've got to be in the city, New York City, on the 14th. So I need to make all of this work.
You do need to make it work because I'm excited about the Beacon Skippy thing. That sounds like a cool.
And that was a good spot when we went before.
I've never been, so I'll learn a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a very cool place. So big events coming up.
So we
Um,
got CWBE Expo, the 5th and 6th here in New York City. Well,
why are you taking a train from Albany? You just think it's cheaper than parking the car at a hotel?
look, Nikki has no depth perception. Nikki and New York City and driving the vehicle, not a winning combination.
I understand.
So,
I
since
understand.
Aaron is in Albany, my boss, then we can both take the train home, back, or wherever
Uh-huh.
to Albany. So, I mean, 5 hours and then a 2 hour
So you're
train
going to
ride.
drive from Buffalo to Albany, leave the car in Albany, and then take the train into New York. That works.
It
That
seems
actually,
a little. It seems a little silly, but
no,
uh,
I've done convoluted stuff like that. I understand.
I know where I got to be, and I'm hoping to pick up some samples tomorrow on the way to Albany. But now that I've learned that Tuesday for CWBE really isn't until that evening, I don't need to be in quite as big a rush for Monday. So maybe I literally
Mhm.
go Tuesday instead, you know? Um, but yeah, I will have to get the app. I'm trying to figure this out.
But
Um,
and Honey's right. The Amtrak people are very helpful. And the
well,
Albany
I'm an
station,
Amtrak virgin, so it
well,
should
the
be okay.
Amtrak station in um, Albany, you're going to go to the Rensselaer station, and
That's
then
where my lab is, I think.
okay, and
I'm in the health department building.
it's really really helpful. They're it's small
Okay.
compared to Penn Station, and even the Penn Station place, they're very helpful.
God knows I'm going to need Penn Station.
It's not like where you need to go to a particular state agency to ask a question, and you can't go and ask a question at a window.
I wonder
It's
which one
not
it
like
is.
a particular state agency where you need to like pick up the phone and call somebody and you can't get through. Or it's not like a particular state agency where you have a question and you type this eloquent email that might be short, it might be long, who knows? But you hit send and you're never really sure if
If it got
anybody
in
read
there.
it. It's not like that at all.
It's like a black hole. Yeah. Well, kudos to Amtrak for having their stuff together. Boom. So,
Boom.
boom. Friday night, I'm speaking at the Roaring 420s, Rep Your Brand Night, just sharing the story. And yeah, so I've got to be back in Buffalo for Friday, and then I'm back in Albany the following Monday.
So when are you home lately?
I'm not. I'm not. Like, my dogs are like losing their minds.
Yeah, my daughter says my cats are losing their minds, because my cats are in the city and I'm up here in DeKalb.
Oh, you didn't
Yeah, I
bring your
can't have
kitties
them
with
here.
you?
I I can't have them up here. And for that
Why?
matter, the apartment that I've rented is a no pet apartment, but
Oh,
it
that's
was
silly.
well, it was the best of all options, all
Mhm.
things considered. And so
Your
it's kind of
kitties must be just dying of anxiousness and missing you.
well, they're with my daughter, and
I
it's
know, but
good
she's
for
not you.
her to, have to step up and do things like clean the box and
Mm.
make sure they get fed. So, but
Well, hopefully she's doing a great job at that.
yeah, she is. I'm
Good.
sure she is.
Excellent. Excellent.
So this week will be interesting. There is never a dull moment in New York cannabis. I
Never.
do wonder if we're going to get a farm bill pretty soon. There's been a lot of talk about it, and it's interesting because I'm in these two different worlds, right? And um, the ag side and the political side isn't talking about what's going on with hemp
No,
at all. They're
not
not.
even a
They're.
little.
It's not even a blip on their screen.
No, no.
And yet, and I mean, that's kind of shows you how enormous the farm bill is. Because, the farm bill, first of all, produces enough food for every pantry in the United States. It's how we have the SNAP program, which is basically food stamps. It's how we have WIC, which is the Women, Infants, and Children program. Um, it is huge how much impact a lot of the um, conservation and environmental things that we need to keep our food supply safe go through the farm bill, not through the EPA. And
Interesting.
yeah, it's enormous. And yet, when I talk to my cannabis people, the farm bill you would think would be the hemp bill. They should have just called it the hemp bill for them.
Right, right, right. Honestly, Paula, you just educated me once again. Thank you for your educational service today because I thought it was just the hemp bill.
No, it, it has very little to do with hemp, except if you're
Wow.
in hemp, it rules the day. Um,
Yeah,
I know we got to go soon, but did you hear this talk that the FDA is gonna greenlight MDMA?
I know. I want to be on the MDMA substance list because it's supposed to be amazing for TBI.
Yeah, it is actually. It is supposed
And
to be amazing.
I had a sample of it at MJ BizCon. And I gotta say, Paula, I just laughed my ass off. I felt so happy. And it wasn't weed. It was like, and it was a gummy, which I don't absorb shit normally. So it was interesting.
That is interesting. I wonder what was different.
I don't either. I don't know. Don't know. Don't
I did,
know.
you saw me tag you on LinkedIn this week about why is it that gummies don't work for some
Oh,
people?
the Eddie Block thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I think I responded.
yeah. I think so.
Yeah. I don't ever ignore you. Um,
No, I'm just calling it to mind for our listeners.
Yes, the Eddie Block situation. Well, friends, thank you all for joining. I don't know how many of you did, but it was a fun night. And as always, we will be back next Sunday night for your viewing and listening pleasure. And
Thanks,
hopefully, we will have one of our amazing guest speakers that we have lined up in the queue, but no one was available this evening. So, we appreciate all of you for tuning in and being part of the Western New York. Uh,
Oh, honey's Eddie
for
Block.
I know Eddie blocking sucks. And I got all these samples of gummies, man. I have so many gummy samples. I gotta say, that's one of the perks of being a tester. All right. Being in the lab business, everyone wants to give you their stuff, not only to test, but then they want you, because you're an expert in quality, to try their stuff too. So the amount of samples I get, I'm loving it.
Wow.
Like, like they really want my opinion, right? Which is awesome.
Fascinating.
But when I have a crappy product, it's going to be hard to really ask me how I really like that. Oh, I don't think I've tried it yet. Um,
But sign right here for this contract.
but please,
Please pay my rent and my expenses.
please help
Anyway,
me.
friends, be back next week.
Next week, 8 p.m. EST. See you then. Western New York
Ciao for
Report
now.
over and out.